Alright, sorry about that. Good morning, everyone. How you are doing? Hope you are well. I was just drinking my Coke. Hey, Ayakame, how you doing? Hey, Jumarinas. Hey, Neymar. Hey, Stefan. Good morning. Hi, Jimmy. Hey, Nev. Guess you guys can see me okay, hear me alright. Yes, everything is streaming good. If you are new to the session, do drop a message and say hi. Let me know where you're joining us from. And for all the regulars, a big welcome back. Thank you again for joining me on this daily market analysis. We'll get going in a minute. If you have any questions at any point in time, please feel free to put it into the chat and let me know. And you can help me out massively by remembering to click on that like and subscribe button. That would help massively. Good morning, Wachaku. How are you doing? And the link for the Discord channel is there if you haven't already, or it's here. If you haven't already, do make sure you join us. Okay, looks like we're good to go. All right, so a quick disclaimer. Any information contained on this webinar should not be construed as advice and is presented as educational material only. Please do your own due diligence as the contents of this webinar are not intended to be a recommendation to trade a financial product. As your objectives, financial situation and needs has not been considered, and you should consider its appropriateness to your circumstances. Hey Basanta, how are you doing? Alright, so take that away. Now, markets have been all over the place. Well, rather, news releases have been all over the place. What happened since the last time we spoke was that we did have the USJOLTS jobs openings release, data release. It was 8.49 mil, expected 8.37. I thought it was going to be between 8.37 to 8.49, but it got released at 8.06, and because of that, what we saw overnight, not entirely unexpected, take that away, not entirely unexpected, but we saw, we were expecting the dollar index, this is where we were, expecting it to go up to test between that 23 and 38.2 level and then push back down. So it pushed down to that support level, support area of 104 before now bouncing back up again, right? After it came down, touched, and has been pushing up since then, now slightly to the upside, but it's still around that same area. So if you had any trades, if you got into any interesting trades, do put it into the chat and let me know. I have my US yen running. Right, so US yen shot down. I didn't catch that move to the downside, but once it bounced back up, right, it bounced back up, broke above that 23.6 level. I got into that. It's running up now. I have my take profit at 75, right? My stop loss is at break even, and I'm just waiting to see whether it's going to hit that level. Okay, so that's the only trade I have running at this point in time. I sat there at 8 a.m. Right, I saw that bounce back up. When I saw that trying to push, and I'll zoom in a bit, and it tested to try and break, and then it came back down. I got in at 9 to try and trade it to the upside. So a lot of waiting, a bit of waiting, but it's been gradually climbing to the upside on the US yen. Let me do that. Put that back on. Okay. Neymar shorted the euro, got his revenge. 15 on the euro and 15 on Aussie short, closed it early. Aussie, so euro did have that drop. It did sit there. We were looking for that to sit in that area and wait a while. It's been doing that, so I'm glad. I think you sold at 109.05 if I remember from yesterday. So you caught your 15, closed out a little bit early, but it sat there. Your Aussie, I think you probably sold it down and it sat there. Aussie was this morning's news. I'll tell you about that shortly. Jimmy, 40 pips on the US yen. Very nice. Good stuff. 30 pips here and there. Total of 70 pips. Very nice. Good stuff. I'm glad. You guys know me. I'm super glad whenever I see you guys making good trades, making good profits. So do keep sharing that. Love to find out, love to see what you guys are up to as well. Okay, because you guys see what I'm doing every day. It feels very one way where I'm just telling you everything. I want to know what you guys are doing as well, just so that maybe I can give you some tips or pointers or perspectives to help you with your trading journey. Okay, Basanta 20 pips on Aussie yen. Was it this morning to the upside or last night to the downside? So Aussie yen, we were talking about this, I think, I don't know when we were talking about it. We were talking about it consolidating, but it broke out from last night. So we saw that morning. So you've been buying it up, very nice. All right, so what we also had from this morning was the Aussie GDP number. Again, a little bit of a surprise here. It was a 0.2, revised slightly up to 0.3. Expected a 0.2, came out at a 0.1, right? But although it came out at a 0.1, on release of the news, what we saw on the Aussie was at 9. It pushed out before the, well, I'll take this one. Move it aside. Okay. Hang on a second. Let me sneeze. Ah, man. Hang on. Okay. It was right. It was pushing up before that, and on release of the news, we saw it spike up. Right. So there's a little bit of a mixed reaction there, and that's why I didn't bother too much telling you all about the Aussie GDP yesterday. Because although we saw it revise up to 0.3 and it got released at a 0.1 quarter on quarter, we still saw the Aussie pushing to the upside from that 6651 level up to that 666162 level, right? So a small push to the upside, 10 pip push to the upside, tested that level, which was support, now turns slightly resistance, and then it's sitting right there right now. No, it's not it's not cold in Singapore. Singapore is tropical. It's always warm. I've just been packing the office a bit, so it's just a bit dusty, I think. Yeah, so that's why I'm just sniffing away from the dust. Okay, thanks for that. What was I going to say? Okay. So that was the Aussie GDP number that was released early this morning at 9:30 a.m. GMT +8. What we do have tonight is the ADP non-farm employment change at 8:15 p.m. GMT +8. It was 192, expected 173. After yesterday's news from the JOLTS jobs openings being a little bit weaker, I'm possibly not thinking too much of an upside on the ADP non-farm. So I'm looking at that as maybe a, not that one, maybe a, I want to say about 160, 150, 160. All right, but I'll tell you that for tonight, I'm not going to be focused too much on the ADP non-farm employment change number. In fact, what I'll be more focused on will be the bigger news, the BOC, the Bank of Canada, with their interest rate decision, taking rates from 5 to 4.75. From 5 to 4.75, a 25 basis point rate cut expected from the Bank of Canada, which, if they do bring it down 25 basis point, we're likely to see some weakness to come from the loonie, from the Canadian dollar, right? We'll pay a bit of attention to the rate statement as well, because there might be a bit of a talk, not just about the pending rate decision, but the move or the decision from here onwards, right? So we'll look at that. I will look at that with a lot more interest rather than the ADP non-farm employment change. 25 basis point rate cut to come from the Bank of Canada, with the rate statement and the press conference to be released at 10:30 as well, right? I don't know why. I don't know if it's published, but I don't watch the BOC. I've never had the habit of watching the BOC press conference. I only watch the FOMC and I only watch the ECB. When Mark Carney was the chairman or the governor of the Bank of England, I watched Mark Carney a lot. Never watched the BOC. Don't know why. Never got to that. But that's something I'll be watching out for tonight. Okay. Neymar is expecting 185. I like Neymar so far. Over the last two predictions, you've got it right. The inverted head and shoulder on the inverted head and shoulder on the dollar index, and I think one more, I can't remember what was it, the core PCE price index, I think. You got it right so far. So hey, it would be nice if it's 185k on the ADP non-farm employment change. We might see a continual push to the upside on the dollar index. Okay. Then what else we have for tomorrow? Tomorrow we have the ECB interest rate decision, another 25 basis point rate cut expected. I'll tell you more about that during tomorrow's session. All right. So now with what we have, main focus will be a possible spike and a retrade, or a bit of a fluctuation, I would say, from the ADP non-farm employment change, and then we'll focus on the Bank of Canada's interest rate decision. All good? Fair? All right, so now with that, then looking at the dollar index, take that away. So it did come down to retest that 104. So we said could have found support at 104, retracing to 104.20, looking for more downside. If it's below 104, could reach 103.60. Didn't get below 104, so it did test 104.20. Even got as high as 104.30, retraced down to 104, and now pushing back up. What I'm looking at from here is I would say that that level still is of interest. Let me see what I can, okay. I would say that this level is still of interest at this point, right? It's not confirmed, or we're not confirmed that, why do I have this? Okay, it's not confirmed that the dollar index is going to push to the upside yet, unless it breaks above this 104.30 level and this area, right? This area formed by that swing low. I'll push this over. Okay, there we go. Formed by that swing low, needs to break above this point. Then we could see further upside. Take that away, and that's done. Right there. Right, so dollar index pushing up slightly right now, needs to break above 104.40 for further upside. If we do see that come around, then yes, we might see further upside. Let me think. JLTS 8.06. ADP could really be any number. It could really be any number at this point. Just thinking about it, it looks like on the dollar index front, okay, what I'll be looking out for will be, today being the 5th of June, it needs to break 104.40 for further upside to 104, about 104.80, right, for further upside to 104.80. But with that said, there is that area that it needs to go past. And if it fails to break past that point, then it could just do this. It could just go up or sit there and then form a bit of a brief double top and then push back down again. Right, so it feels like the dollar index could range at this point. Right, why I'm thinking that it could range at this point is ADP is there, but it's not. We're possibly looking at the non-farm on Friday that could have a bigger impact on the dollar index instead. So maybe looking at it bouncing around this point, come back down before bouncing back up. Okay, so I would say that the dollar index could range between 104 and 104.30. Right, needs to break 104.40 for further upside to 104.80. There we go. Right, so it could range within this area, but I'm looking for it to break. Looking to break 104.40 for upside to 104.80. There we go. It could range there, but we're looking for it to break to the upside. Okay. That makes sense now. Could it head lower? Can't say no, but I feel that this is quite a good support level that is quite likely to hold. All right, now with that, looking at some dollar strength coming back into play. Let me check my yen, just missing my stop loss. Oh, just missing my take profit a little bit. Might be looking to close that. Hang on. Let me just close that out. Okay, closed out. So I closed that one out at that point. I think I got about 60 on that. Okay, so that's done. US yen is done. Take that away. Now onto the Kiwi dollar. Shared with you all this on Discord channel earlier, where I was looking at, you know, how we're talking about this to come down, test that trend line and bounce up. We were right at that point where I thought it could push higher to the upside. And that would be quite interesting. But the way I'm looking at it now, expecting some dollar strength to come back into play, I might be looking at this at a different way. Now thinking that it might push, and it's sitting at this level. That's not really a relevant level. I don't think this is a good level to have. take that away, bottom to the top, 23 being right there. What I'm looking for is this, right? I actually like this point a little bit more, where if it fails to go a bit higher, or it goes a bit higher and then it turns back down, right? We're looking at that. So it might sit around there, but what I'm looking for is that it turns back down. Safer entry would be below that 23.6 level, say about 6170. Stop loss about 20 to 25. Take profit, we could go 30 down. That's my swing level here. And 61.8 right there. So I'm looking for it to break the trend line back down. I would say even a 20 pip stop loss. This one could go down to 40 to the downside. That would still be reasonable. Then if it pushes down, if we do see that big upside move on the dollar index and the Kiwi dollar breaking down, we could even be looking for a further move back down again. Okay, so 6-1. So this one didn't trigger that trade before. I'll be looking to sell at 0.6170. Stop loss 20. Take profit 40 to the downside. Looking for that to push up. Then onto the Aussie. All right. That one it didn't trigger because we had the news. Take that away. And that we still have that trend line holding it up. It found about 61 and bounced. Right, so it found 61, and based on this, okay. Based on this, I'm looking at it in the sense of if the dollar weakens back down, we might see this push up, finding a bit of a support here and pushing up. Also because of what happened this morning with the news, at 0.1 we saw the Aussie dollar push up. If it finds a bit of a support here, we could see it push up. On dollar weakness scenario, Neymar with a head and shoulder on the Aussie, I see that as well, right? So we have that with the neckline, right? So also with that break to the downside and the neckline at, oops, I can't draw that straight line, with the neckline at that 61.8 level, that's crucial. That is going to be crucial. So I'm looking at this point here with a lot of interest, right? It's consolidating at this point, where if it breaks, looking for it to break below that 61.8 level or to bounce off. So if it bounces off, I'm not super keen on buying it up, right? I'm not super keen on buying it up because the previous high was only about 20, at the most 30 pips away, and you're looking at a stop loss of at least 20. Not super keen on that. I'm actually thinking that thanks for pointing out the head and shoulder as well, if it does break 6630, we can do a relatively tight stop loss at 15, take profit down to 35. Right, to do a triple, to eventually form a triple bottom here, possibly on the Aussie dollar in the lead up to the non-farm employment change number. So what it looks like, it's going to sit here for a while and then maybe crash to the downside. So 6630, very similar there. 6630, stop loss 15, take profit 35 to the downside with a head and shoulder pattern possibly supporting that move. Okay, then on to the I close out my yen a little bit. This is why I don't like to keep my trades open during a session. I jump into action a bit too randomly because I don't like to have it open and keep checking on the prices. US yen now pushing to the upside. So we had this was where we were yesterday. That point there, it hit my take profit. I closed out of my trade to the downside on the US yen. It continued lower, right? Continued lower, no big reason. So that push to the downside on the dollar, we did see it come in at that point, but for it to continue pushing lower was not an intervention. It was, I felt that it was very much a sentiment that the markets was pushing it to the downside, right? It found a support, push back up. We spoke about that already. Now pushing back up. If it goes past that 50% level, we could anticipate further upside. I like that. I don't need any of this. That's all done. I like that it's found a bit of a support here. Right, found a bit of a support here, pushing up, needs to get past 50. That one's done. Right, needs to get past this area. This is going to be an interesting area that if it can go past this point, then we're going to see a big push to the upside on the US yen. Again, possibly driven by that dollar strength, some dollar strength to come back into play, right? So on the US yen on dollar strength, I'll be looking at 156.60, and it's moving very well. 30 pip stop loss, 60, 80 pip take profit to the upside. There is going to be a little bit of, most likely going to be a bit of a hesitation here as it pauses, and because it's been climbing very strongly already. So I'm looking at it to break past or to consolidate around here for a while before pushing higher again. Analysis and trade entry point totally matches mine. Fantastic, I love that. So I'm looking at that. I feel that the risk on this, on the US yen for this push to the upside might be a little bit of exhaustion, right? It's been climbing since this morning. It was at 154.83. It's pushed up very strongly, now 155, almost 156. If it does push up, we might see a bit of exhaustion, a bit of consolidation before another break or reverse, but we're going to see that push up. Okay, so 156.60, 30 to 80 to the upside. Buy 156.60, stop loss 30, take profit 80 to the upside. Aussie yen, yes, we can do that, Basanta, no worries. And look at that. Dollar index now showing a little bit of a weakness, but that's still pushing up, so that's going to be interesting. All right, now that's done. On to the pound dollar broke down. You could have entered that, you might have entered that as it broke to the downside. You see Bollinger was way outside, so technically you shouldn't have. In fact, no, I will do it now. I'll do it another time. There's something interesting to show you guys. Some little secrets I have. I'll show you that next time round. So that's outside of the Bollinger. Right, that's outside of the Bollinger where you shouldn't have entered that trade because you know that's more likely to push back up. If you entered, would have hit your stop loss at 20 pips. Now, in this range, I would say that I wouldn't do anything on the pound dollar at this point. Right, that's 50 there. I wouldn't do anything on the pound dollar at this point because it feels like it's going to push back up, consolidate along that point. I don't need that. Take that away. So it feels like it's going to push back up. The main thing I'm watching out for on the pound dollar is whether it's going to come up to that resistance, reject, or come up and look for reaction along that resistance. So I'm looking for that kind of move today maybe, and then maybe for tomorrow push back down, or we could see it break up. So I want to see a reaction on the pound dollar at that 1.2820 level. Okay, so not going to do anything on that. I'm looking for reaction at 1.2820 level. It is right now at 1.2780. If you wanted to trade it up, right, there is a 35 pip move to the upside, a bit too skinny, but you could do a 15 pip stop loss, a 35 pip take profit to the upside. That's possible. But I think that would be a better kind of setup if you looked at it on the H1, on the M15 time frame instead of on the H1. Okay, so I'll look for that. I'll wait for it to push up, and then if it breaks, then I'll wait for it to push up towards that resistance and look for reaction there. If the dollar comes in a lot stronger, then we could see it sit here and then retrace back down, but looks like we might see a bit of a push up before on Friday seeing a reaction there. On Thursday actually with the ECB, the euro could lead to a big move on the dollar index, which could affect the pound dollar as well. Right, so euro set in that consolidation as we had expected or anticipated. We were saying to look for reaction between 108.70 and 108.90. It set between 108.70, well, it came down to 108.60 and went up to 108, almost 108.90, but still in that consolidation. Right, still in that consolidation. What I have here is that I'm looking at that. Okay, and then what you would also have at this point is that holding prices up. So same thing, but it's a little bit nearer than the pound dollar. Is that now I think that we're going to see that test and push back down. I think we're going to see that test and push back down. So because of that, I would be looking to sell on a test and reject of that resistance. 1.0880, 1.0875. Stop loss 20 pips. Take profit down 40 pips. First to the downside. Okay, so 1.0875. We're looking to sell at, well, test and reject resistance. Sell at 1.0875. Stop loss 20. Take profit 40 to the downside. There we go. Test and reject resistance. sell at 1.0875, 20 pip stop loss, 40 pip take profit. That makes sense. Then on to the US Swiss franc. It did exactly as we expected, came consolidated there, broke to the downside, found the support, bounced off or bouncing off the support, pushing higher. Right, so what we're looking at here is that big move. I don't think it's going to bring about any levels that we would look at now because it's still a bit far away. But if you look at this small move, I think that's done. Right, it's breaking past that 50%. It's coming up to that 50% level. So this was yesterday's move to the downside, now pushing back up towards 50. We're looking at this pushing back up, especially if the dollar does strengthen. Right now, you look at that, it's pushing back down, but yet this is still looking like a bit of an upside move. I don't need that. I'll keep that there, that's fine. What I'll be looking for would be actually a little bit of a, I would look for this move. So now it's came down, it's coming back up. I'm looking for it to test 50, come back down slightly before maybe pushing back up on dollar strength. Right, so firstly, if it breaks above that 50, I think the safer option will be to look at above 50, 8935. I wouldn't do a 50 pip stop. I would say 20 pip is not the best place to have a stop loss, but I would have it there because of that 50% level. And then a take profit back up 75. That's what I'll look for. So whatever it does, I'm looking for it to break 8935, 20 to 75 to the upside. So we found that support is bounced off the support. So now we're looking to buy at 0.8935, stop loss 20, take profit 75 to the upside. 75. All right. It might do that, or it could just go from here and push up. So we're looking for that. Okay. Then the big one. You see how it breezed through everything because we're looking at the big one here on the usdcad. We talked about this on the Discord channel with the double bottom. It's worked out very nicely. It's pushed up slightly from where we talked about yesterday. Now at this point, technically, this is where we were yesterday. And it's right at the same point now. It's right at the same point now. It hasn't done too much. And it's actually found that 61.8, broke past 61.8 slightly, and it's consolidating at this point. What I'm looking at here is this pattern where you have that push up and then you have that to the downside, right? You have that move like that. So I'm looking for this to come back down. If it fails to break below those swing levels, that one and that one there, so it needs to stay above 1.3660, which is right there. Right, if it stays above this point, then we're looking for it to break to the upside, especially given that the Bank of Canada is expected to cut rates, right? Bank of Canada cutting rates is going to bring about weakness to the Canadian dollar, which on the usdcad is likely to show a push to the upside on the usdcad. So yes, Neymar, that's a bullish flag or pennant, but yeah, a bullish pattern, a continuation pattern. So we're looking for that to push up. I would say that based on this, what we're looking at is about 1.3, safer one would be 1.3690. Stop loss, I would do 30. No, I would do less. I'll do 20. Take profit, you would have that point on the trend line, but I think that you would be looking at a 90 pip take profit with a hesitation along these levels. So along that 1.3740 level, right? That means, what I mean by that is we look for that pattern to play out, which will look like that, test down, bounce around, on release of the news might break up. It could come up to this point, bounce around, do that, and then do that. Right, so you could be looking at closing a trade here, here, or here. So that makes sense. Yes, I'm happy with that. 1.3690, 20 to 90. Buy 1.3690, stop loss 20, take profit 90 to the upside. This is BOC rate. C rate decision pending. All right, there we go. Then on to the question from Basanta on the Aussie yen. Right, so again, Aussie dollar consolidating still, looking at potential downside on the Aussie dollar, so Aussie weakness. US yen doing very well, pushing up. I kind of regret closing out my trade, would have hit my take profit, extra 15 pips there. But I'm looking at the next one. So we're looking at US yen pushing up. So Aussie yen, I don't know why I have all that scribbles now. Take all that away. Looking at this, we know we have a high here, which is a resistance, and it's pushing back up. If you are in a trade already, if you're still holding on to your trade, I think it's further upside potential because of the US yen dragging it higher. Aussie weakness might bring it back down slightly, but Aussie weakness is not confirmed yet. Right, we could still very well see this bounce off the support and push up. So what we're possibly going to be looking at on the Aussie yen is for it to continue pushing higher towards that resistance at 104.70, right? At 104.70 to the upside. So I'll be looking for that. Does that align with your view, Basanta? Hope it does. Then onto the gold. Onto gold, right? What we talked about yesterday was below 23.40, could trade down to 23.20. It did that exactly. I had a couple of quick scalps on this to the downside. Below 23.40, we were right there. Right after our session, it broke to the downside. It came all the way down to 23.20, slightly lower down to 23.17. And then push back up again. Now, with anticipation on dollar strength, I would say that I don't need that one there. I would look at that point at 23.28. If it can break 23.28, I'm not looking at new lows. I would say 23.17, right? So below 23.28 could trade down to 23.15 to the downside. Does that make sense? No, actually I'll go a little bit higher, 23. 17, 23, 18. I don't think we're going to see a big move yet. So 23, 18. Okay. But the main focus is still, I'm still looking at that bullish pattern continuation, bullish flag continuation to the upside on the US CAD. Close out my trade on the US yen, but still looking for a further push. Consolidating here slightly, possibly it is outside the Bollinger. We are about 10 minutes to the close, so it might sit there for a while before pushing higher again. 156.60, 30 to 80. I'm looking for that kind of move to the upside. Kiwi not doing well, looks a lot more weighting, so we're looking at that resistance. Alternatively, on the Kiwi, what I would be looking at is a test and reject of that resistance. 20 pip stop loss, back down 35, 40 pips to the downside. So we are looking at either it break back down, or it pushes up and then it breaks down on dollar strength scenario. Now brief dollar weakness, then dollar strength. Aussie, the head and shoulders will look very nicely if it plays out. We'll wait for that. Thank you, Bazanta. Pound dollar consolidating, feels like it might just sit there and push down. Right? As much as I'm optimistic, I'm hoping to see it test the resistance and push back down, it feels like it might just do that at 1.2750. Stop loss 20 pips, take profit. You got 30 down to the trend line, and then maybe further downside. I just don't like it too much because of that brief trend line that we have. It's not the strongest, so you could kind of ignore it and think that it's going to come lower to 40 pips, but it is forming a higher low, so maybe we'll see it come back down to around that point and look at that kind of trend line there. Like that. All right, so if it sits there and pushes down, we could look at that, but ideally I would like to see it push back up, test and reject. Euro dollar, it's almost there, pushing back down, so we're looking for that to the downside. I would like to see it push back up a little bit. I think it's not going, if it comes down now, I don't think there'd be enough strength to push it down. Could, but I don't think there'll be enough strength to push it down. I want to see it recoil, so-called recoil, get a bit more strength, and then push down again. US Swiss franc could go up, not one of my favorite pairs to trade. And that is it. Feels like a very short and sharp session, but we've gone almost through the whole hour. If you have any questions, please join us on Discord. Make sure you verify your account, you get all the channels. And then I will be happy to catch your questions there. And if not, please trade well, trade safe. I'll see you all same time, same place tomorrow. Nema saying, you've been following my class for 1.5 years, 2 years. Daily analysis has added so much to his knowledge. You're most welcome there. I really appreciate your kind words, Neymar. Thank you for that. Have I been doing it for 1.5 to 2 years now? Doesn't feel like it. But good, I'm very glad that you're getting good benefit out of it. Please do keep turning up and keep sharing your thoughts and ideas. Thanks for that, Jimmy. Thanks, Jumarinas. Thanks, Stefan. Take care now. Bye-bye.